access to legal aid. This is the first regional conference of its kind and is intended to initiate, facilitate, and support partnerships that strengthen access to justice and access to quality legal aid services in the countries of Africa, Asia, and Pacific countries of the Global South. On this occasion, we are honored by the august presence of the Honorable Vice President of India, Shri Jagdeep Dhankarji. We would also like to welcome on the dais Honorable Dr. Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, Chief Justice of India and Patron-in-Chief, NALSA, Honorable Mr. Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, Judge Supreme Court of India and Executive Chairman, NALSA, Honorable Mr. Justice Sanjeev Khanna, Justice Supreme Court of India and Chairman, Supreme Court Legal Services Committee, Shri Arjun Ram Meghwal, Honorable Minister of State with Independent Charge, Ministry of Law and Justice, Shri R. Venkatramani, Attorney General for India, and Mr. Amitabh Kant, India's G20 Sherpa and former CEO, Niti Aayog. May I request Honorable Mr. Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, Judge Supreme Court of India and Executive Chairman NALSA to deliver the welcome address.
A very good morning, esteemed Shri Jagdeep Dhankarji, Honorable Vice President of India, Dr. Justice Dhananjay Yashwant Chandrachud, Chief Justice of India and Patron-in-Chief of the NALSA, my brother Justice Sanjeev Khanna and other brother and sister judges of the Supreme Court of India, and many of the High Court judges from across the world participating with us today. Shri R. Venkatramani, Attorney General of India, Shri Amitabh Kant, other dignitaries, ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you all to NALSA's first regional conference on access of legal aid, strengthening access to justice in Global South. My association with NALSA in the capacity of an executive chairperson has now been for over a year. I have had the privilege to work closely with NALSA to further universal principles of justice, well-being and good governance. Today's conference presents an invaluable opportunity to learn how these principles are facilitated internationally. Today's conference follows the call made by the participants during the second International Conference on Access to Legal Aid in Criminal Justice System held in Argentina in 2016. Their request was for conferences to be held on regional levels to conduct more focused and strategic deliberations on the specific needs of the participating countries. This allows for greater flexibility and a more targeted approach in meeting the needs of our people. And in following this objective, our focus for the next 2 days will be on the specific goal of ensuring access to quality legal aid services in the countries of the Global South. We now embark on a journey towards building consensus, understanding, and collaboration for a cause that lies at the heart of our legal system, access to justice. This conference is truly unique and innovative in its nature. This is the very first of its kind, initiating and facilitating partnerships at the regional level to enable discussions of progress, challenge, and exchange of good practices. While everyone should have access to a good lawyer, our attention is multifaceted to enable dispute resolution and effective governance mechanism at all levels. In the pursuit of justice, the importance of legal aid cannot be overstated. It is the cornerstone that upholds the principles of fairness, equality, and the rule of law. Our gathering here today reflects a shared commitment to advancing the cause of justice and ensuring that it is accessible to all, regardless of socio-economic backgrounds, geographical locations, or any other barriers that may impede the realization of this fundamental right. We come from different backgrounds, and cultural norms, but we have a common ambition and aspiration. Our goal is to formulate concrete action orientation plans to address legal aid challenge, and the objective of this conference align seamlessly with this ethos. We aim to build consensus on the pivotal role of legal aid in our societies, recognizing it is not merely as a service, but a beacon that guides the marginalized towards empowerment and protection. As we deliberate on strengthening access to justice and conduct, it is imperative that we foster a holistic understanding centered on the need of the people. Our discussions today also find resonance with the Sustainable Development Goal 16 to promote peaceful and inclusive societies, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable institutions. Access to justice is intricately linked to the establishment of peaceful societies and robust institutions. As Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, the second President of India, once said, I quote, "Justice is the first virtue of social institutions, as truth is of system of thought." This conference serves as a platform for international collaboration and knowledge sharing. In a world that is increasingly interconnected, the challenges we face in ensuring access to justice are not confined by borders. By coming together, we can leverage collective wisdom, share best practices, and explore the innovative solutions that transcend the geographical boundaries. I am a firm believer that we must evolve our functions and outlook to understand our people and better represent them. These Chief Justices and Ministerial Roundtables are a first of their kind platforms comprising of Cabinet Ministers representing African, Asian and Pacific countries in the Global South, and will bring forth various regional perspectives, issues and challenges that we can face collectively. I would like to mention some of the path-breaking work with NALSA is doing in this regard, specifically through its Under-Trial Review Committee, the UTCR. The UTRC closely reviews under-trial prisoners under several parameters, such as women offenders, sick and infirm, and sends their recommendations for release. I am proud to mention that so far the UTRC has recommended 42,172 under trials, of which 21,304 have been released. At the same time, NALSA is continuously working towards securing release for the remaining 26,891 under trials, whose release has been recommended by the UTRC. With that, as we engage in the fruitful discussions over the next few days, let us be guided by a shared vision, a vision where justice is not a privilege but a right, a vision where legal aid is not an exception but a norm, a vision where our collaborative efforts pave way for a more just, equitable and compassionate world. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed partners, UNDP, UNICEF and the International Legal Foundation for joining hands with us in this endeavor. Together, we have the power to shape the course of justice, to make it more inclusive, to leave an indelible mark on the lives of those who seek it. Once again, a warm welcome to each one of you. May our deliberations be fruitful, our collaborations enduring, and our commitment unwavering in the pursuit of justice for all. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. May I now request the UN Resident Coordinator in India, Mr. Shambi Sharp, to address the gathering.
Honorable Vice President of India, Honorable Chief Justice of India, dignitaries on the dais, to everybody here in this august gathering. Namaskar. Mujhe Supreme Court of India mein aakar bahut khushi hui. It is a deep honor to join all of you here in the Supreme Court complex of India. as representative of the United Nations Secretary General and the UN system in India. I wish to thank the National Legal Services Authority of India, the International Legal Foundation, the United Nations Development Program, and UNICEF for organizing this very important discussion on legal aid for access to justice. I would also first like to wish everybody a wonderful Guru Nanak Jayanti today, noting his philosophy of equality, devotion to service, and humanitarian principles resonate strongly with the theme of today's gathering, which is a truly impressive collection of representatives from so many countries across the Global South, across Asia and Pacific and Africa. Colleagues, allow me to start with a story, a real-life, difficult story. During the days of COVID lockdowns, as in many parts of the world, a woman named Manjita found herself isolated at home with a violent partner, cut off from services and support networks. One day, after a violent assault, she fled, but found hope and refuge at a Jugnu club, a women's self-empowerment club. Jugnu means fireflies and points to the torch-bearing role that women play in transforming their own and each other's lives. There, she was offered shelter and given legal assistance, including to help file a complaint with the police and legal representation. This situation, this example, sadly, could still happen in any country, in any community across the world, and is taken from an example of a United Nations UN Women-supported project, underscoring why each and every year we mark the 16 days of activism, running from the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, launched this past Saturday on the 25th of November, running to the International Human Rights Day on the 10th of December. Colleagues, access to justice is the very foundation of the rule of law, and access to legal aid is a core element of saving lives, of empowering people, protecting fundamental human rights, and ensuring the accountability of power, as well as achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. This year's International Human Rights Day, on the 10th of December, just 2 weeks away, is a very special one, as we celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And as the Declaration reads, justice is a universal human right that must be protected for every individual, regardless of wealth, social status, or place on the map. Yet, the World Justice Project found that globally, only 17% of those in need were able to turn to a third party for legal aid, and up to 1.5 billion people are unable to access any form of formal justice, with the cost of legal services among the greatest barriers, particularly in the Global South. To address this, the UN General Assembly adopted in 2012 the UN Principles and Guidelines on Access to Legal Aid in Criminal Justice Systems, the very first international instrument on the right to legal aid, complemented by the UN Standard Minimum Rules for Administration of Juvenile Justice for Children and Youth. This conference is an important part of this critical push to implement the guidelines' right to legal aid, especially for poor and vulnerable persons in the Global South, which was launched at the Johannesburg Conference in 2014. And it is fitting now that India is hosting the first regional legal aid conference, in line with India's long-standing commitment to supporting and helping to give voice to the Global South, also demonstrated during this year's ambitious, inclusive G20 presidency, recognizing the presence of the Sherpa, Mr. Amitabh Kant, which welcomed the African Union to the G20 which delivered a consensus pro-Sustainable Development Goals New Delhi Leaders Declaration within the spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one. India has long championed both the Universal Declaration of Human Rights itself and the concepts of dignity, freedom, and justice for all, ideas which permeate India's constitution, tradition of the rule of law, and robust independent judiciary, all cornerstones of the world's largest democracy. The world indeed celebrates such Indian icons as Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and Mahatma Gandhi, who himself was a passionate advocate for the notion that legal services and justice should be accessible to all. Indeed, the 42nd Amendment of the Indian Constitution enshrines the right to legal aid for the vulnerable and led to the establishment of the National Legal Services Authority to implement that across the country. Across the Global South, however, less than 1/3 of countries have legislation for legal aid, and fewer still translate law into meaningful ways for vulnerable populations to exercise that right. Therefore, the United Nations agencies across the world are working together with member states, with vulnerable groups, in line with the UN principles on legal aid. For example, UN Office on Drugs and Crime, UN Women, and OHCHR are helping to improve access to legal aid for women in West Africa. Here in India, our UN agencies are partnering with government authorities under government leadership, working with communities to enhance wide-ranging access to legal support, from UN Women and UNFPA's support to centers for survivors of gender-based violence, to UNFPA and UNICEF's joint program to end child marriage, from ILO's ensuring workers are aware of their legal rights, to UNICEF's work with government to end child trafficking and labor, and UNDP's past partnership with the Department of Justice to strengthen access to justice and legal aid for marginalized communities across over 10 states. Dear colleagues, equal access to justice is crucial to achieving the promise of SDG 16 of peace, justice, and inclusive societies, and the overall 2030 agenda promise to leave no one behind. Yet, while SDG Target 16.3 tracks access to legal aid, only 10 countries have so far reported official data. We need more data to drive policy and investment. So I conclude, dear colleagues, with the powerful phrase, "Nye mein deri anyay hai," which is, justice delayed is justice denied. I thank you all for your dedication and reassure you of the commitment of the UN system, the resident coordinators, the UN country teams in your home countries, that we will be your close partner in this journey. Bahut dhanyavad.
Thank you, sir. May I now request India's G20 Sherpa and former CEO of Niti Aayog, Mr. Amitabh Kant, to address the gathering.
Honorable Vice President of India, Shri Dhankar, Honorable Chief Justice of India, Dr. Chandrachud, Honorable Justice Kaul, Honorable Justice Khanna, the distinguished Attorney General of India, our distinguished Law Minister, Shri Meghwal ji, distinguished guests from all parts of the Global South, ladies and gentlemen, it is truly an honor for me to be here with all of you for this very seminal event. I believe that affordable and efficient access to justice for every Indian is not a choice. It is a vital necessity. With vast number of pending cases in the Global South, it is also one that needs innovative and cutting-edge solutions to facilitate more affordable, expeditious, efficient, and scalable solutions at a population scale. This is a time when India has become a beacon for growth and development, and the G20 presidency has been an opportunity to showcase India's potential and accomplishments on a massive international scale. India's New Delhi Leaders' Declaration is a very living, vibrant document of the Global South. We were able to ensure the inclusion of the African Union as a permanent member of the G20. The Global South is critical and important. It is important because this year, 80% of the global growth will come from emerging markets and the Global South. According to IMF, in the next 2 decades, almost 2/3 of the global growth will come from emerging markets. This year itself, the 6 of the fastest growing nations in the world are from Africa. And therefore, it's important that we are able to ensure access of justice to all. Without this, this growth will not be feasible and possible. The success of digital public goods and infrastructure are well documented and have been tremendously impactful as far as India is concerned. They have served as lighthouse initiatives for other key impact sectors. In fact, technology has already enabled India to make the lives of its citizens easier and more efficient. Direct benefit transfers have transformed the ability of individuals to receive what is accrued to them in a seamless, paperless manner. Unified payment interface has done the same with cashless transfers, helping India's digital economy evolve rapidly. The role of technology as a disruptor, the focus on good governance and enhancement in ease of living are all aspects that correlate positively with high growth. One of the major areas of focus for the Government of India is to help achieve efficiency and attain access to justice for each and every Indian. Technology also has the potential to greatly expedite access to justice for the common man. In fact, access to justice is a key citizen need that requires a futuristic relook to enhance efficiency, equity, and ease. Very few, if any, jurisdictions have taken it upon themselves to use technology as an access and efficiency mechanism like India has now. And for India, this is a critical need as well as an opportunity. And my belief is that technology alone will be a major driver of transformation in the Global South. The G20 presidency gave us an opportunity to engage meaningfully with member countries and both learn from the adoption experiences as well as showcase the opportunity that India has presented through technology and access to justice. The next 2 decades are said to be the most significant of India's growth story. According to a Niti Aayog roadmap, India will be a Viksit Bharat with a $30 trillion economy by 2047 and a per capita income of almost about $18,000. If this level of sustained growth that we aim to achieve, and our opportunities now must catalyze this, we need to work in partnership with the Global South. To do so, a dependable, reliable, effective, and timely dispute resolution framework is a must. With the progressive adoption of technology-led dispute avoidance and resolution by several initiatives, and the ability as well as possibility of building avenues to resolve millions of matters, there is a deeply impactful public good component at play. But first, let me acknowledge the landmark Mediation Act 2023, which in India has greatly enhanced the chances of commercial matters to be solved pre-litigation. This should hopefully expedite the pre-litigation resolution volumes, while at the same time reduce the burden on courts by resolving matters prior. And therefore, to my mind, mediations are critical. Going back to the role of technology, I feel an efficient technology-led justice delivery system that helps achieve sustainable, affordable, and dependable resolution will be the key to helping achieve universal access to justice in the Global South. Another major technology-led policy framework to achieve speedy, affordable, and accessible justice is online dispute resolution. In Niti Aayog, we had formed an interministerial high-level committee led by former Supreme Court Judge Justice Sikri that laid the foundations from which to develop a policy framework for ODR. Today, it is positioned to become a high-volume dispute avoidance and resolution intervention that can not only reduce the burden on courts and the corresponding millions of cases pending, but also ensure that access to justice in the most remote parts of the global south can become a reality with nothing more than just a mobile phone required to enable it. Ladies and gentlemen, in India itself, we've seen that ODI has become an important component of finding solution in an area where dispensation of justice is a growing problem. There are examples both from the government as well as the private sector when it comes to deployment of ODI. Some government-led adoption examples include the launch of the Department of Consumer Affairs of the Integrated Consumer Grievance Redressal Mechanism initiative and the launch of the Samadhan portal by the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. On the private sector, there are several startups offering ODR, and is likely to enable the sector to become a sustainable and scalable to a great extent. To address access to justice in parallel, the Government of India work in repealing over 2,000 obsolete and archaic laws is leading to a robust suite of laws that are relevant to the current development context. Also, the Government of India's work in actively decriminalizing minor offences for acts that don't have malicious intent behind them will help improve governance and accountability. All of these initiatives will help every citizen, not merely of India, but as we take this movement forward across the global south, it will enable every citizen of the global south get access to justice without years of delay, which will be a game changer. This brings me to the role of the Supreme Court in adopting technology, which is one of the most encouraging developments, showcasing how progressive and innovative the Supreme Court has been. As Chief Justice, Dr. Chandrachud has also spoken of, artificial intelligence has been an important role to play in non-invasive functions for access to justice. Artificial intelligence is now the future of technology, at its core both transformative and revolutionary. The ethical and responsible use of AI and machine learning for the advancement of efficiency enhancing can be increasingly embedded in legal and judicial processes. Tools derived from AI could help expedite the case flow management, unclog processes that slow justice down, and in many cases ease administrative aspects. Importantly, the use of AI in courts does not envision replacing the wisdom, experience, and objectivity of judges in determining verdicts. In the conceivable future, there is no question of replacing human reasoning, logic, and intelligence of the judiciary with automation. But there are many aspects of technology that can be integrated with immediate effect. AI, in fact, holds the potential to trigger deep-seated transformation in imparting justice. One significant example is in the Jugalbandi application, which is a free and open platform that combines the power of large language models and Government of India's own language translation model, Bhashmi, and which enables every citizen across India, in whichever language he uses, to get access to any scheme of the Government of India. And therefore, this has helped ensure that language will no longer be a barrier in accessing information and accessing justice. It is empowering citizens to access information about government schemes, healthcare benefits, and justice system in the language of their choice. In a country like India, with several languages and over 2,000 dialects, this has made a major transformation. The Supreme Court has laid a strong foundation basis which efficiency enhancement can be accelerated across functional processes. This is one of the key reasons why justice delivery in India is poised for transformative change. Ladies and gentlemen, there are several transformational initiatives in India today that can be taken across the global south, which can help achieve resolution and avoidance that are in motion. The efforts to ease living and ease access to justice is both revolutionary and exemplary, and could serve as a useful template for many jurisdictions across the world that are seeking to use technology and efficiency to make justice a reality, not just an aspiration. This is the platform for the global south becoming a world-leading region, including access to justice, and all of us need to work together in partnership. G20 was all about partnership. It was a partnership between India and the global south, and I think we need to do the same for access to justice. Thank you very much, and my congratulations once again to Nalsa.
Thank you, sir. May I now request the Honorable Attorney General for India, Shri R. Venkataramani, to say a few words.
When Honorable Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul asked me to be on the dais today to share with the esteemed Vice President gracing the occasion and the other wonderful dignitaries who are going to assemble here, I said, who could decline this invitation? I'm indeed grateful for the invitation. My memory goes back to year 1987. India hosted a World Appellate Judges Conference. There were several question marks about public interest litigation and the role of legal aid. I wonder now if those judges are able to come back today and look at what's happening here. You would probably ask, they said you would have probably said you asked the wrong questions. The Task Force on Justice report on Justice for All finds roughly 5.1 billion people across the globe today lack meaningful access to justice. It is also estimated that roughly 4 billion people live outside the protection of law. Poverty, inequality, and economic deprivation are generally the causes for a lack of access to justice. While these causes for the justice gap remain outside the justice delivery system and to be dealt with by economic and social policies, it is understood that a palliative or succor by way of access to justice within the unequal social order should be able to prevent debilitations and disabilities and the failure of justice. When Clarence Gideon approached the U.S. Supreme Court in 1963 by way of a letter written from the prison, complaining that lack of legal assistance to him in defending himself in a prosecution, other than a major felony, has led to his conviction, the court found that his conviction was illegal for lack of due process. This demand for mere state assistance to defend oneself at state cost was and is only a minimal demand. The history of legal service extension in India, both before the 1973 report on legal aid, is the trajectory of quantitative expansion of legal aid. The Supreme Court's engagement in articulating the constitutional foundations of legal assistance, from Sunil Batra to Hussain Ara Khatun, to Khatri to Saheli, etc., were endeavors to arouse the state and the courts to sensitivity to the whole idea of injustice and fairness. I consider the National Legal Service Authorities Act is a culmination of the prevailing ideas and legal assistance to the economically vulnerable. The inclusion of categories of persons to be benefited by the law was also a product of experiences gained on the area of impact of law. This state of law, in my understanding, is a first-order conception of legal assistance. The justice gap concern is a larger concern relating to elimination of social factors of inequality, which is what is sought to be dealt with by Article 38 of the Constitution of India. As long as severe social inequality persists, there will be a justice gap. The operation of the legal system itself will be unequal. The solution to the problem of people being unable to secure equality within such a system cannot merely be a matter of enabling equal contests by unequally placed parties within the adversarial system. When we thus talk about legal services, we tend to confine ourselves to the assistance to be extended to those who are drawn into the vortex of criminal prosecutions, either as victims or as accused, to providing legal aid to different categories of people in need. The categories of persons who can be supported by the legal services under the National Legal Service Authorities Act are comprehensive. The question, however, is not who else are left out. The question is also not what more needs to be done within the framework of this law. While these questions also need to be addressed, they are not the only questions. While India has traveled long distance and can be proud of significant milestones beyond many other parts of the world, it still needs to ask these questions. Freedom from hunger is an existential demand. Freedom from arbitrary social actions is also an existential demand. By the same logic, freedom from unequal operation of justice system is also an existential demand. All developmental talk will be meaningful if citizens have the same sense and comfort of belonging to and participation in justice administration. Article 39A demands that the state shall secure that the operation of the legal system promotes justice on a base of equal opportunity. What is the equal opportunity? Operation of the legal system is not merely the working of the dispute resolution machinery. Every law which enacts in regard to rights and obligations is a system, and a deficiency in the law which lead to unequal contest on rights will be unequal operation. When the foundations are defective, the operation of the system will be obviously unequal. We are therefore talking about opportunities which will address not merely the court contest inequality, but something more fundamental. In other words, we need to look at the framework of a law which may not provide for accountabilities and obligations, which should be self-enforcing. What is sought to be emphasized is that the legal aid today is the external assistance component to mitigate the unequal operation of the legal system. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 2030 in Goal 16 recognize the intrinsic connection between access to justice, poverty reduction, and inclusive growth. This means that we'll be looking at economic growth, development, and poverty reduction strategies, and integral reduction strategies integrate equal claims to justice and legal empowerment initiatives as necessary elements to achieve these objectives. Some studies done by the Asian Development Bank show that in communities with legal support, regulatory reforms resulted in higher levels of productivity and consequently economic gains. In our country, legal support to women in various distress situations, example dowry, has shown degrees of reductions in the extent of such a phenomena. It may be seen that the multiple dimensional nature of sustainable development goals call for coordination across policy areas. A progressive legal support measure will enter into this coordination. The connection between equal distribution of income, poverty reduction, employment generation, rural growth, and new forms of rural development by engagement of relevant technology, social sector development, such as education, may have to be seen as seamless programs. The next generation of legal services would be to engage in this connection and to provide assistance and guidance. This would call for setting up legal empowerment centers in rural and the rural part of the urban areas to be social empowerment sectors. What political and social education can do in the hands of partisan political agencies, legal empowerment can do by structured education, just as adult education programs do. Even as law schools have legal services provision, the attendance is not a necessary component of clinical legal education. Clinical legal education will be incomplete if students are not exposed to the travails of citizens encountering an unequal and legal and justice system. Some areas of concern also need to be noticed. It must now be clearly recognized that the greater the investment in justice delivery and equal justice, greater the increase in gross national happiness index. Recent periods have seen reduction in the quantum of central funding under the legal services umbrella. If I'm not wrong, from a figure of 140 crores in 2018-19, it seemed to be 100 crores in 2021. Inadequate infrastructure and poor lawyer funding continue to be factors that matter. The original sin of lawyers treating legal aid as a stepchild continues to be a cause of concern. Legal aid is not an alternate second charity. I squarely condemn such an attitude. Those who think that progress in profession is corporate or governmental work alone are blind to the fundamentals of professional calling. How do we generate dignity and reputation to legal services work? This continues to be an old question despite several progress in the areas of activities of the National Legal Services Act. Participation in socially relevant legal services should be a proud ethical and moral dimension of the profession. If you want to aspire for Padma Awards, or if not Magsaysay Awards, as a moral doctorate conferment, be a part of the legal services and be a part of enabling people to have freedom from unequal opportunity of the legal and unequal legal justice system. A neglected area generally may be noticed. That is the importance of economic analysis of our laws and policies. Cost-benefit analysis from around the world seem to suggest that the benefits of legal aid and related services significantly outweigh their costs. The report, which is an outcome of a joint project between World Bank and International Bar Association, provides useful insights. Maybe we need to do a cost-benefit analysis of our existing programs and emphasize the multitude of social benefits that may ensue on greater social and financial investments. Finally, the government must set up legal services watch to take stock of and report itself every month for correctional measures. This watch can be a joint venture of the courts, which now provides leadership and the governments. Maybe we should move away from political freebies to non-political engagements. I must appreciate deeply Honorable Sanjay Kishan Kaul and other honorable judges who thought on the importance of these deliberations and have bestowed keen insights on organizing this conference. I am sure governments will keep their ears and purses open. And to all those foreign dignitaries who have traveled long distances, I think we have traveled long distances to close our distances. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir. We now request the Honourable Minister of State, Ministry of Law and Justice with independent charge, Shri Arjun Ram Meghwal, to address the audience.
On the occasion of first regional conference on access to legal aid, on the dais, respected Jagdeep Dhankar Sahab, Honorable Vice President of India, Honorable Dr. Justice D.Y. Chandrachud Sahab, Chief Justice of India and Patron-in-Chief, Nalsa, Honorable Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul Sahab, Judge Supreme Court of India and Executive Chairman, Nalsa, Honorable Justice Sanjay Khanna Sahab, Judge Supreme Court of India and Chairman Supreme Court Legal Services Committee, Shri R. Venkataramani Ji, Attorney General of India, Shri Amitabh Khan Sahab, India's G20's Sherpa, Shri Sombi Sahab, UN Resident Coordinator, India and other esteemed dignitaries, guests and delegates. I thank you, UN Resident Coordinator in India. He remember Guru Nanak Jayanti, means Prakash Parv, means Kartik Purnima. I wish you all the best on the occasion of Guru Nanak Jayanti, all the participants who gathered here for this conference. It is with great honor that I extend a warm welcome to all of you for the inaugural session of First Regional Conference on Access to Legal Aid organized by the National Legal Services Authority of India, means NALSA, in collaboration with the International Legal Foundation, the United Nations Development Programme and United Nations Children's Fund. This groundbreaking event marks a significant milestone in our collective efforts to address challenges in ensuring access to equality legal aid services, particularly in countries of the Global South. The presence of participants from the Global South is a testament to the shared commitment we hold towards advancing justice, upholding human rights, and promoting inclusive in legal aid. The conference provides a unique platform for dialogue, collaboration, and exchange of insights that will undoubtedly contribute to the enhancement of legal aid services on global scale. Global South regions plays a crucial role in strengthening access to justice, a fundamental component of fair and equitable society. One key aspect is the establishment and maintenance of an efficient and accessible justice delivery system. This involves investing in the infrastructure necessary for courts, legal aid services, and alternative dispute resolution mechanism. World Bank has observed that in many countries of the Global South, there is a shortage of judges and legal professionals, leading to significant case backlogs and delay in the legal process. These issues can be addressed by allocating resources to train more legal professionals and improve courts infrastructure, which can enhance the overall efficiency of the justice system. Access to justice faces significant challenges due to financial barriers, particularly affecting marginalized communities. Tackling this issue necessitates a substantial increase in funding for legal aid program, with a specific focus on Global South. By enhancing financial support, we can ensure that individuals without representations gain access to justice, thereby fostering inclusivity. Furthermore, legal awareness is essential given that a substantial population in the Global South is unaware of their rights. To address this gap, educational initiative, especially in rural area, become crucial. Additionally, we must prioritize addressing some problems within the judiciary system to create more just and acceptable legal framework. Sustainable Development Goals 16 explicitly highlights the promotion of peaceful and inclusive society, access to justice, and accountable institutions. This goal recognizes the indispensable role of a robust legal framework and effective institutions in fostering economic growth and reducing inequality. The World Bank affirms that countries with strong legal institutions and the rule of law experience higher level of economic development. Transparent legal system encourage investment, as shown by the World Justice Project's Rule of Law Index. Higher rule of law score the increased economic development. Access to justice is vital for fostering entrepreneurship and small business development, especially in the Global South, where informal economies prevails. The International Finance Corporation notes that a lack of legal protection and access to justice hampers the growth of small and medium enterprises. The United Nations Development Programme emphasizes some problem again within the system can undermine the economic development by diverting resources and perpetuating inequality. Sustainable Development Goal 16 advocates for measures to combat corruption, promote transparency, and strengthen institutions crucial for creating an environment conducive to sustained economic development. India is a leading voice for the Global South, actively engaged in diplomatic forums such as BRICS and G77 to address common challenges. Our commitment to the South-South cooperations is evident through programs like the Indian Technical and Economic Cooperations Program, which provides training to professionals from developing countries and fosters human resources development. India's foreign aid contributions, spanning healthcare, education, and infrastructure, reflect our dedication to supporting fellow Global South nations' development goals. India is actively participating in global conversations on climate change, advocating for development nations in forum like the United Nations Framework Convention on the Climate Change. While India is among the top carbon emitters globally, our per capita emissions remains significantly lower than those of developed countries. This distinction highlights India's efforts, responsibility in addressing climate change, acknowledging the unique challenge faced by the Global South. To strengthen its leadership role, India holds significant summits like the Rajya Dialogue, the India-Brazil-South Africa Dialogue Forum, the 15th BRICS Summit, and the 2nd Global South Summit, fostering collaborations among the Global South nations. These initiatives demonstrate India's commitment to promoting South-South cooperation and addressing shared development challenges. In our gathering today, we are actually aware of the challenges our nations face in translating principles into tangible actions, from limited resources to information's gap on legal aid and road height is challenging. Yet, it is precisely in the face of these challenges that our unity becomes paramount. We are here to renew commitment, share lessons, and craft plans to address challenges. By fostering cooperations and sharing best practices, we can fortify legal aid services and overcome hurdles to justice. The conference will explore crucial topics from legal aid models to funding mechanisms and strategies for justice. Each and every participant of this conference plays a pivotal role in shaping the success of this gathering. Let us seize this opportunity to collaborate, listen, and learn from one another. Together we can craft policies that resonate beyond these walls. By making this conference a success, we send a message. The Global South is united in its commitment to justice, fairness, and well-being of its people. Rather than viewing this gathering is isolated, it is a start of a transformating journey. The challenge we face are complex. Our contributions will enrich discussions. Let us embark on the journey of shared learning, innovations, and collaborations for a more accessible legal aid landscape. I heartfelt welcome to each of you. May this conference be a fruitful and inspiring experience. मैं कुछ प्रकाश पर्व पे एक मेरी कविता है, so just I want to say, बना रहे प्रकाश जीवन में आपके, ये मेरी नेचुरल स्पीच है। बना रहे प्रकाश जीवन में आपके, जो बिखेरती है प्रकाश पंक्ति दीपों की, स्वीकार करो शुभ संदेश नानक जयंती का, सुख समृद्धि शांति और सफलता का। सुख मीन्स हैप्पी लाइफ, समृद्धि मीन्स प्रॉस्पेरिटी, शांति मीन्स पीस, और सफलता मीन्स सक्सेसफुल इवेंट। देखिए, एक दुष्यंत कुमार हमारे यहाँ कवि हुए हैं, और उनका कॉन्फ्रेंस होती है, मीटिंग होती है, लेकिन लोग समझते हैं इसका लाभ क्या हुआ। तो जैसे दुष्यंत कुमार कहता है, हो गई है पीर पर्वत सी, पिघलनी चाहिए, अब इस हिमालय से कोई गंगा निकलनी चाहिए। आग मेरे सीने में नहीं, आग मेरे सीने में नहीं, तेरे सीने में ही सही, लेकिन जहां कहीं हो आग, लेकिन आग लगनी चाहिए। सिर्फ हंगामा खड़ा करना मेरा मकसद नहीं है। ये कोई संजय किशन कौल साहब का कोई ये मकसद थोड़ी था कि सबको बुला लो, इकट्ठा कर लो, खाना खिला लो, चर्चा कर लो, ये नहीं था। सिर्फ हंगामा खड़ा करना मेरा मकसद नहीं है। मेरी कोशिश है कि सूरत बदलनी चाहिए, कुछ चेंज होना चाहिए, सूरत बदलनी चाहिए, सूरत बदलनी चाहिए। एक टॉपिक और दे रहा हूं मैं आपको। टुडे इज ए पूर्णिमा, मीन्स वी कैन रिव्यू, because Kaul Sahab, there is a always follow program. That today is a Purnima. We can start one program, one night with moonlight, to reduce carbon emission. This is also one of the important program of the life. Life Mission is a program led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Lifestyle for environment. This is a Purnima. Every Purnima, every Purnima, we can review meeting through VC. That we can do. What we have achieved, this first regional conference of Global South, we can review every Purnima after completion of the 1 year. Again we can meet here. What we have achieved. इसलिए दुष्यंत कुमार ने कहा कि हो गई है पीर पर्वत सी, पिघलनी चाहिए और ये हिमालय से कोई गंगा निकलनी चाहिए। आग मेरे सीने में नहीं, तेरे सीने में ही सही, लेकिन जहां कहीं हो आग, लेकिन आग लगनी चाहिए। सिर्फ हंगामा खड़ा करना मेरा मकसद नहीं है, मेरी कोशिश है कि सूरत बदलनी चाहिए, सूरत बदलनी चाहिए। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you, sir, for your words of inspiration. May I now request the Honorable Mr. Justice Sanjeev Khanna, Judge, Supreme Court of India and Chairman, Supreme Court Legal Services Committee, to present an overview of the conference.
Namaste and very good morning. Shri Jagdeep Dhankar, Honorable Vice President of India, Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud, the Chief Justice and Patent-in-Chief, National Legal Services Authority, or NALSA as we call it, Shri Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, Judge, Supreme Court of India and Executive Chairperson, NALSA, Mr. R. Venkataramani, Mr. Amitabh Kant, and Mr. Shampi Sharp, Shri Arun Ram Meghwal, Honorable Minister of State and Law for State for Law and Justice, Assistant Brother Judges, Ministers and other delegates from the Global South countries, experts from the field of research and academia. Legal aid needs to be understood much beyond the aid to the needy. Legal aid has a functional role in strengthening the justice system. It empowers individuals to participate and engage with public institutions and become active and equal stakeholders. This is the first time when the heads of the judiciary, heads of law and justice ministries, heads of legal aid bodies, and civil society representatives from 70 countries of Global South are coming together at an international platform dedicated to the cause of legal aid. It is the first regional conference on Africa and Asia Pacific countries of the Global South in a series of international legal aid conferences. This conference has set the stage for unique collaboration between NALSA, the International Legal Foundation, or ILF, UNDP, and UNICEF. Indian Constitution imposes an obligation on the state to provide free legal aid to ensure access to justice to all citizens. In India, the Legal Services Authority Act 1987 forms the backbone how legal aid accessibility and awareness is structured. From NALSA, which is tasked with policy making, finding solutions to challenges in coordination with states and districts, the structure trickled down to talukas, or subdivisions of districts, where legal services committee function in close coordination and contact with the locals. The ILF's work stands out in its dedication towards ensuring high standards of legal quality in legal aid. Their research on quality legal representation standards has laid down ways in which policies can be effectively drafted to produce congruent and effective outcomes. The UNDP has been a trailblazer in its vision to achieve Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. SDG 16 refers to peace, justice, and strong institutions, under which the indicator for accessibility to and affordability to justice, along with considering how affordable courts are, the factors such as awareness of legal remedies amongst public, procedural hurdles, linguistic barriers, and access to consultation representations are other indicators. For the child in conflict with law and for grassroots level work on juvenile justice system, the body of work conducted by UNICEF has been remarkable. Let me now deconstruct the plan for this two-day conference. The conference is designed to arrive at policy, governmental, judicial, and grassroots level solutions to the challenges and for increasing access to quality legal aid. The conference will comprise of 17 sessions, which will include 2 roundtables, 3 plenary sessions, 10 panel technical sessions, along with inaugural and valedictory functions. Professionals from diverse fields of expertise, social backgrounds, cultural perspectives will engage in collaborative discussions. The aim is to formulate strategies culminating in an outcome document which would articulate conclusions and purpose and propose solutions. The Chief Justice's Roundtable Conference Roundtable on Equal Access to Justice for All in the Global South, chaired by the Chief Justice of India, is one of the kind of initiatives taken by the conference. This unique occasion brings together Chief Justices from 17 countries of the Global South. It is a rare opportunity to catalyze the exchange of most effective practices and insight garnered from years of experience. The role of government is crucial in promoting the rule of law, access to justice, and quality representation. They are necessary for development of a strong and independent legal institutions. Government are entrusted with enacting and implementing inclusive and equitable policies. The conference will feature a ministerial roundtable. The agenda for the roundtable is Advancing Agenda for Sustainable Development 2030. Access to Justice, Global South. It is chaired by the India's Minister of State for Law and Justice. The discussion will involve people-centric justice approaches, role of state-funded legal aid systems, and the interlinking between the nation's economic transformation through access to justice. The 3 plenary sessions in the conference will focus on status of realization of right to legal aid in the Global South, key ways to strengthen access to legal aid, lastly, discussion on outcome document. The plenary sessions will be chaired and co-chaired by current and former judges of the Supreme Court of India, with moderators and speakers from acclaimed international organizations working in the field of legal aid. 10 parallel technical sessions will conduct discussions on themes like strategies for reducing pre-trial detention, innovative financing models for legal aid delivery, child-friendly legal aid, and environment justice. The technical sessions will have intersectional discussions between government representatives, legal experts, and international policy organizations. Being a citizen of the Global South holds significance in our shared history and experiences. Our colonial past, technical poverty, addressing diverse strata of big populations, climate change, and rapid evolution of public institutions. The expanse of Global South is estimated to be about 80% of the world population. The issues of the Global South are issues of the world. A platform like this conference establishes a collaborative system of sharing practices, policies, and resources. It also gives voice to concerns as well as reflects the strength of the Global South. It is my earnest hope that over the course of 2 days, we'll be able to truly enrich and fruitfully exchange the experiences and local lessons and collectively arrive at solutions which will pave way to tangible impacts for the marginalized in our communities. As I conclude, I'd like to leave with a few words from Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer, a pioneer in legal aid movement in India. He had said, "Every saint has a past, every sinner has a future. Never write off a man wearing a criminal attire. Restore his human potential. By holistic healing and by repairing the repressive, though hidden, injustices in the social order, which is vicariously guilty of the criminal behavior of many innocent convicts. Let the law rise with life and the jurisprudence respond to humanism." Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I now request the Honorable Dr. Justice Dhananjay Yashwant Chandrachud, Chief Justice of India and Patron-in-Chief NALSA, to present the keynote address.
Honorable Vice President of India, Shri Jagdeep Dhankarji, Chief Justices, Judges, Ministers, diplomats, policymakers, lawyers, delegates and guests. The diversity and depth of your own experience provides the richness of the soul of this conference. And I have pleasure in congratulating National Legal Services Authority, the International Legal Foundation, UNDP, UNICEF, and all of you for helping in putting together this historic event. The discourse about human rights and access to justice has historically been monopolized by voices from the global north. At least that was how it was when I was a law student. But this often makes such dialogues unsuitable for application in other contexts and societies. Undeniably, it is imperative to amplify the justice needs of underrepresented populations in our countries. I'm certain that this conference will serve as a meaningful point of departure for engagement between India and other participating countries with whom we share a close bond. The concept of justice has historically been construed as applicable solely within the confines of a sovereign state. Given the intricate web of transnational relationships in the present age, our conceptions of justice have also changed. In these transnational relationships, not all nations are treated equally. However, some nations share a sense of solidarity and belonging. It is here that constructed categories such as the Global South become important points of collaboration, dialogue, and deliberation. This term is not geographical, but it reflects political, geopolitical, and economic commonalities between certain nations. Several nations in the Global South, including India, have historically been at the receiving end of imperialism or colonial rule. This history resulted in a relationship of unequal power, with such nations being forced into the periphery of the world economy. It is for this reason that before academics use the term Global South, terms such as developing or underdeveloped and Third World had gained wide currency. Today, however, this conception is far from the truth. There has been a universal shift in wealth from the metaphorical North Atlantic to the Asia Pacific. By 2030, it is projected that 3 of the 4 largest economies will be from the Global South. The GDP in terms of purchasing power of the Global South-dominated BRICS nations surpasses that of the so-called Global North's G7 club. One of the reasons why nations in the Global South have been able to achieve economic prosperity is their willingness to recognize their unique needs and collaborate with each other. This conference serves as a starting point for our nations to expand beyond mere economic and trade alliances and make a cooperation between our legal systems a key priority. Because above all, underlying our legal systems over whose destinies we preside is the quest for social justice for our populations. Countries in the Global South have been grouped together not only in terms of their economic status or shared colonial history, but also based on their legal response to their colonial past and socioeconomic conditions. Our constitutions are a deviation from the language of constitutionalism and justice prevalent among Western nations. A renowned scholar described the constitutions in the Global South as sharing a core normative commitment towards state institutions, having obligations to address economic injustices and inequalities in their societies. For instance, the constitutions of several nations in the Global South are cognizant of the existence of indigenous minorities, tribal groups who have been historically prejudiced and expressly recognize their rights through special provisions, provisions providing for affirmative action in education, public employment, and the legislature for scheduled castes and tribes in the Indian Constitution is one such example. That the judiciary has the potential to play an extraordinary role in increasing access to justice has been uniquely displayed by several countries in the Global South. Countries including India have developed ingenious legal practices to increase access to justice. For instance, since the early 1980s, the Supreme Court of India made revolutionary attempts to increase access to justice by way of its public interest jurisprudence. The court removed procedural barriers to access the Supreme Court and allowed all citizens to approach the court for the amelioration of socio-economic injustices. This jurisprudence resulted in the Supreme Court being widely regarded as the People's Court. Our Supreme Court takes all appeals to and violations of legal aid with the utmost diligence. All in a week's work, let me share with you just 5 or 6 examples. The plea of a prisoner on death row to have a psychological assessment conducted about the impact of solitary confinement. The plea of a convict, even after the conviction has attained finality, that they were juvenile on the date of the incident and could not have been tried as an adult. The plea of a woman who has been denied access to her child in a violent marriage to seek habeas corpus. The plea for early release by a prisoner who has undergone 2 decades of imprisonment following a conviction for the offense of murder. The claim of disabled individuals to seek social welfare benefits. The challenge for us as judges is not just to do justice in the facts of an individual case, but to institutionalize our processes and look beyond the immediate as well. At the administrative level, our legal systems in various nations who are participating in this conference can collaborate with each other to increase judicial cooperation and access to justice. India, for instance, has played a pivotal role in the construction of both the Supreme Courts of Mauritius and Bhutan. We have had exchanges with the first woman Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Kenya, who visited us recently. Recently, I had the privilege of signing an MOU with the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Singapore in the field of judicial cooperation. This commitment to collaboration between nations of the Global South drives us not only to come together in such settings, but also serves as a reminder that our institutions play an important role in promoting and upholding the rule of law. The complexities of law and process, the inequality between ordinary citizens and powerful adversaries, judicial delays, and the belief that the system works against marginalized communities are among the various barriers that stand in the way of equal access to justice. When I assumed office as a judge of the Supreme Court in 2016, this perception of our court worried me greatly, and with utmost humility continues to worry me even today. I realized over time that access to justice is not a right that can be secured only by crafting pro-people jurisprudence in our judgments, but rather it requires active progress on the administrative side of the court as well. During my tenure as a judge of the Supreme Court, and now recently as a Chief Justice for the last year, I have facilitated several initiatives to increase the citizens' access to the courtroom, both literally and metaphorically. The most effective weapon that we wield to accelerate access to justice is technology. Today, the Supreme Court is successfully using technology in myriad ways to bring the courtroom closer to our citizens. I'm certain that several of you have had the opportunity to watch the live stream of proceedings before the Constitution benches of the Indian Supreme Court. In many ways, online streaming of proceedings has taken the Supreme Court of India to the hearts and the homes of common citizens of the country. In terms of physical access to the courtrooms, discussion about the deficiencies in physical infrastructure have been commonplace. However, such discussions must move beyond merely increasing the number of courtrooms or judicial officers. Access to justice is as much about the quantity of judicial infrastructure as it is about making courtrooms a space where everyone feels welcome. An integral part of securing access to justice, therefore, is making the courtroom a space that is accessible to persons belonging to diverse communities, cutting across age, gender identity, caste, and economic status. The first step in that direction, of course, is ensuring that the physical infrastructure of the court accommodates all citizens. The Accessibility Committee, chaired by a judge of the Supreme Court, recently released its audit report on the physical and functional accessibility of our Supreme Court. The report contains several actionable recommendations, including the introduction of battery-operated vehicles, hydraulic lifts in the courtrooms, reservation of seats for pregnant women in the court complex, sign language interpretation, and service windows for senior citizens and persons with disabilities. As of today, 9 gender-neutral restrooms have been installed at various locations within the precincts of the court. We have also taken steps to introduce an additional column for lawyers to mention their preferred pronouns while appearing before the court or filing documents. Recently, the Supreme Court acted swiftly to appoint a sign language interpreter for a member of our bar with a hearing impairment. Such initiatives aim to ensure that individuals belonging to diverse communities, including gender minorities and persons with disabilities, are not only granted physical access to the court, but are also able to express themselves authentically. I have highlighted some of the strides that the Supreme Court of India has made in this address, and I am sure that my colleagues and I will take this discussion forward in the Chief Justice's Roundtable on Equal Access to Justice for All, which will follow shortly after this session. I am looking forward to learning from my counterparts from various nations about the best practices that their courts have adopted to increase access to justice. I am certain that the conference will be productive not only in generating a significant dialogue, but also for us to arrive at principles and recommendations which can serve as useful tools for achieving our long-term objectives. I extend my earnest wishes for the success of the conference. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. May I request the Honorable Chief Justice of India to present a memento to the Honorable Vice President of India. May I request the Honorable Vice President of India, Shri Jagdeep Dhankar ji, to deliver the inaugural address.
I had not uttered a word, an indication is already there. Honorable Chief Justice of India and Patron-in-Chief NALSA, Dr. Justice Dhananjay Y. Chandrachud, Honorable Mr. Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, Judge Supreme Court of India and Executive Chairman NALSA, Sri Arjun Ram Meghwal, Honorable Minister of State for Law and Justice, Independent Charge, Honorable Mr. Justice Sanjeev Khanna, Judge Supreme Court of India and Chairman, Supreme Court Legal Services Committee, Sri Amitabh Kant, India G20 Sherpa, we are proud of him. For the entire year, things were managed seamlessly. Where there were many fault lines, you could overcome them all. Sri R. Venkatramani, Attorney General of India, Sri Tushar Mehta, Solicitor General of India, Sri Adish Agarwal, President of the Supreme Court Bar of Association. I happen to be its member for long. Honorable audience, we have in this house two honorable members of Rajya Sabha, Sri Vivek Nankha and Sri K. Ravindra Kumar. Sri S. K. G. Rathi, Secretary, Department of Justice. Distinguished guests, legal luminaries, policy makers, and committed individuals. It is an absolute privilege to be part of the first regional conference on ensuring access to quality legal aid for the vulnerable, challenges and opportunities in the Global South. The theme of this conference captures the essence of our collective endeavor and objective. Convergence of stakeholders to deliberate on these momentous issues of contemporaneous relevance, especially for Global South, is apt and timely. In a sense, theme of the conference complements the visionary steps taken by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi for Global South. During India's presidency of the G20 in 2023 this year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi emerged as a leading voice for the Global South, advocating for the interests of developing nations on the world stage, very impactfully and very productively. Prime Minister Modi championed issues such as climate change, sustainable development, digital transformation, and also emphasizing the need for inclusive and equitable solutions that address the unique challenges faced by developing countries, including Global South. This conference, organized by NALSA, together with International Legal Foundation, the UNDP, the UNICEF, presents a unique opportunity and platform to forge a collective path towards ensuring access to justice for all, a basic human right that has long been a cornerstone of equitable and just societies. Chief Justice Chandrachud is passionately in mission mode to secure, particularly for the marginalized sections, availability of legal aid and access to justice with ease. Chief Justice Chandrachud has initiated in last 1 year series of affirmative steps, innovative steps that are people-centric, litigant-centric, and those steps have turned out to be game changer in bolstering both legal aid and easy access to justice system by vulnerable segments of the society. The upcoming roundtable conference, to which the Honorable Chief Justice made a reference a while ago, under his leadership, I am sure promises to be a fruitful endeavor. His innovative approach to employment of technology in justice delivery has been transformative, and I am confident that this august group would get valuable insights and enormously benefit. Friends, today we stand at a critical juncture in the pursuit of justice and justice for all. Undoubtedly, access to legal aid and justice system is quintessential to nurturing and blossoming of fundamental human values and fostering equitable societies. Evolution of such an ecosystem will nurture global order and welfare of humanity. The resounding declaration in the preamble of Indian Constitution, I quote, "We the people of India," unquote, reflects the essence and spirit of an inclusive document aimed at safeguarding the rights of every citizen, regardless of background, circumstances, or social standing. Our Constitution, friends, enshrines the principles of equality before the law and equal protection of law. These provisions serve as inalienable facets, the bedrock of a just and equitable society. prescription in Article 32 of the Constitution, the right of every individual in the country that is home to 1/6 of humanity, to move the Supreme Court for the enforcement of fundamental rights. This was eloquently reflected by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar as the soul of the Constitution. For over 3 decades, NALSA has stood as a beacon of inclusive and affordable legal aid for India's marginalized communities. If I relate to you its success on ground, it is very impactful, dotting every part of the country. NALSA's numerous initiatives have secured ease of justice, bridging the gap between legal services and those in need thereof. Particularly through over 5 million tele-law consultations, demonstrating its dedication to leveraging technology for justice accessibility. Under Justice Kaul's leadership, NALSA tirelessly strives to create a society where justice is a fundamental right available to all with ease and impact. NALSA model of justice delivery is worth emulation by nations of Global South. Friends, the Indian Parliament, of which I am part, by virtue of being chairman of the Rajya Sabha, in its unwavering commitment to translating the constitutional promise into tangible realities, has embarked on a journey of legal reform, promoting mediation, repealing archaic laws that hinder progress, and enacting new laws that address contemporary challenges. India's civilizational ethos, deeply rooted in the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one planet, has shaped its foreign policy and its interactions with the Global South. India is consistently taking a stand as a torchbearer and crusader for rights and aspirations of all nations, particularly the young and newly independent countries of the Global South. This commitment is evident in India's leadership of the non-alignment movement, its unwavering demand for reform in the United Nations Security Council, and its instrumental role in the recent inclusion of the African Union in the G20. The Global South, encompassing a diverse landscape of nations, faces unique challenges in ensuring access to quality legal aid. Poverty, geographic remoteness, cultural barriers, and a complex legal system often create insurmountable obstacles for those seeking justice. Yet, amidst these challenges, there lies an abundance of opportunities to advance the cause of legal aid. This conference for sure will deliberate on this, ensuring light at the end of the tunnel for the needy. Going by the discourse I have seen today, going by the deliberations and the scope you will have, I have no doubt the tunnel will end soon and there will be bright sunshine for all to the extent availability to justice system and legal aid is concerned. Friends, as the Global South embarks on its journey towards a brighter future, it is imperative to shed shackles of its colonial past and strive together to reverse the historical wrongs that have perpetuated injustice and inequality. This, as a matter of fact, friends, is a common thread. The legacy of colonial legal regime has been highly burdensome to the vulnerable sections of the society in these countries. By very nature, that was aimed to be extremely harsh and oppressive, exploitative for the local populace. Time has come to follow India's example and emulate the same. As sovereign nations The Global South nations should consider reviewing old colonial laws and perpetuate prejudice against local populations. Our country is in the process, and the legislations are under consideration of the Parliament that will bring about sea change in our outlook and totally contain, curb, and decimate those exploitative provisions in procedure and penology. Sharing of best practices, fostering collaboration, and leveraging local expertise would go a long way in strengthening the delivery of legal aid services across the region. Much can be learned from this country for a simple reason, that we are a diverse country. Different regions, different cultures, different languages, and access to legal aid, fortunately with leadership we have at the moment in judiciary, is taking care of all these, and it is turning out to be very seamless. The countries of Global South would do well to closely study the actions which India has taken in these areas and apply them to their countries by customizing. India's presidency of G20, its contribution of $25 million to the Social Impact Fund to support the implementation of digital public infrastructure in countries of the Global South, and the 2 Voice of Global South summits hosted by Prime Minister Modi, and these stand as a powerful testament to India's final commitment to the cause of Global South. Friends, just few years back, no one was even aware about Global South. It fell to the lot of India's Prime Minister to bring it at center stage, in a forum which is primarily dominated by developed countries. And the success that has been achieved by inclusion of African Union side by side the European Union is remarkable, very equitable. Friends, this conference serves as a platform for sharing experiences, devising solutions, and crafting a better future, particularly for those in the Global South. We have a deep emotive connect as a nation with the nations of Global South, culturally and otherwise. The negative aspects of colonial rule bind us together. We have suffered through the ages. We have to mitigate suffering by learning from each other. Our country, at the moment, as already indicated, is on a rise that is unstoppable, a rise that is phenomenal, a rise that has been acclaimed by the world. International Monetary Fund has reckoned India as a favorite global destination of investment and opportunity. World Bank has appreciated our digital movement to be emulated by others. If I reel out statistics, you will be amazed. In 2022, our digital transactions were 4 times the combined transactions of US, UK, France, and Germany. Our per capita internet consumption is more than that of China and US taken together. Imagine in a country like ours, where 110 million farmers thrice a year can get funds directly into their accounts. It is not significant that the government can do it. What is more significant, and I say it as son of a farmer, that the farmer is equipped to receive it. And this has made India governance transparent and accountable as a norm. Global South countries can learn a lot from this country. How to secure zero accommodation for corruption, neutralizing power corridors, power brokers who extra legally leverage the decision making in commercial field, they have totally disappeared. These are not easy tasks, easy objectives to be achieved. India has done it. From that perspective, I take this gathering as a strong beginning, a small step that will help us take a big leap. Through idea exchange, through ideation, best practice exploration, and partnership forging, we can pave the way for innovative approaches, ensuring access to justice for all. There was a time when countries of global south and countries like Bharat used to look at other countries in the, what we say, north. They used to settle our agenda. Now, Bharat has emerged as settler of agenda at a global level. Friends, let us therefore, in togetherness, reimagine legal aid, harnessing technology, empowering communities, and bridging the gap between legal services and those in need. Let's strive for a world where justice is fundamental right, accessible to all, regardless of background, circumstances, or location. I welcome foreign delegates to this country to learn firsthand that India's civilizational ethos are marked with global welfare. We have treated over the ages our Bharat as part of globe, and the entire globe as our family. And this was demonstrated by India when the world faced pandemic COVID. Facing pandemic challenge in our country, about 100 countries were assisted by this country by supply of Covaxin. So India's ethos are now translated into a ground reality impacting the entire world wholesomely. Rise of global south would constitute, according to me, the greatest stabilizing force for the world, and it will generate growth trajectory of the world, control it, gallop it, and sustain it. Friends, drawing inspiration from the global south's legal traditions and cultural values, let's forge a path towards a world where justice reigns, marginalized voices are heard, and equality is realized for all. We don't have to go far. Father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, reflected on all these issues. He believed in a system by indicating the planet has everything for everyone's need, but not for greed. Now these are the lessons which we can have bonding, far more qualitatively penetrating than bonding with the countries in the north. Our alliance, therefore, has been developing organically. It's natural, authentic. I am so glad that this initiative has been taken. It will take us a far way. The deliberations in the conference will pave way for forward stance. Friends, I conclude by indicating deprivation of access to justice system, denial of legal aid, offer existential challenge to the vulnerable, to the weaker sections, and we have to neutralize these challenges by affirmative policies and initiatives to secure justice for them. There couldn't be a more impactful beginning of this than the place where we are at the moment. I conclude by congratulating the Supreme Court of India for bringing about change of mindset, game-changing policies, and making Supreme Court virtually available to everyone in the country in virtual mode. Thank you so much for your patience and time. Jai Bharat.
Thank you, sir, for your words of inspiration. We would like to thank the Honorable Vice President of India for inaugurating the first regional conference on access to legal aid, seeking to overcome the various challenges in strengthening access to justice in the Global South. We would also like to thank our honorable foreign delegates for their presence here. Please rise for the national anthem.